There comes a moment in a person's life when the heavens open and what was once written in lack begins to be rewritten in abundance. There comes a divine hour when the same God who watched you struggle begins to turn the pages of your story. I declare to you now, this is that moment. God is rewriting your financial records. The same hands that shaped the universe are now moving through the unseen realms, altering the script of your destiny. The same voice that called light out of darkness is calling provision out of scarcity for you. What was once a record of debts, loss, and limitation is being transformed into a record of wealth, growth, and overflowing supply. You may not see it yet in your bank account, but heaven has already signed it. God has already approved it. The shift has already begun in the unseen. Many of you have walked through seasons where every effort seemed to crumble, where the harder you worked, the smaller the result appeared. You cried, you prayed, you sowed, and yet the harvest seemed delayed. But hear me today, delay is not denial. The silence of God is not His absence. When God is quiet, He is not ignoring you. He is writing. He is editing the script of your story so that when He reveals it, it will make sense. Why certain doors closed? Why certain people walked away? Why certain opportunities fell apart? God is not just watching your life. He is rewriting it. And when God rewrites, He does not use ink that fades. He writes with the eternal signature of His will. You see, your financial record is not just about money. It is about destiny. It is about what God intends to manifest through you. Some of you were born into poverty, not because that was God's design, but because He wanted to show what His power can do in transforming ashes into gold. You have carried the burden of bills, loans, and limitations. But God says today, I am changing the story. Your name that once represented a struggle will soon represent supernatural supply. You are about to move from begging to building, from surviving to thriving, from asking to owning. The hand that have been stretched out for help will now become the hand that gives help. You will be the lender, not the borrower. You will be the one others come to for counsel, for opportunity, for hope. God is not just giving you money. He is giving you authority over the realm of provision. He is teaching you that wealth is not just a physical currency, it is spiritual alignment. When your spirit aligns with the will of God, everything around you must shift to match that alignment. That is why the world cannot understand why, after being broken, you still rise. They cannot understand how, after being rejected, you still glow with the faith. It is because you are walking with the one who holds the pen of destiny. You are walking with the one who writes the stories no man can erase. There is a divine rewriting happening right now. In the invisible, God is erasing the stains of financial shame that marked your past. The debt that kept you awake at night are being canceled in ways you will not understand. The lack that limited your dreams is being broken. You will soon see the manifestation of divine provision that flows without limit. When God rewrites your record, He also rewrites your understanding. He teaches you that money is not the goal, it is the byproduct of obedience. It is the result of divine alignment. When you obey the voice of God in the small things, He releases abundance in the big things. Many people chase money, but the wise chase God. Because when you chase God, money will chase you. There is power in believing that God can rewrite. Your faith is the pen in God's hand. Your trust is the ink. When you speak with faith, you give God permission to manifest what He has already written in heaven. You see, many have a faith for salvation, but few have a faith for transformation. God is not limited by your salary, by your background, or by your education. He is not bound by what your economy says or what your society predicts. When God decides to elevate you, He will use what others overlook. He will promote you from the very places people rejected you. He will open streams of income that you didn't even know existed. He will turn your ideas into influence and your vision into value. Do not be afraid of small beginnings, for God often hides His greatest treasures in humble places. When you have little, God observes how you handle it. When you are faithful with a little, He rewrites your record to entrust you with much. Some of you are about to step into much. You are about to enter into a season where your previous financial limits will no longer exist. God is transferring wealth, not to make you boastful, but to make you a blessing. You will build what others thought impossible. You will feed those who once pitied you. You will employ those who once doubted you. Your wealth will be a testimony of divine authorship. The problem with many people is that they only see what's written on paper. They look at the bank statement and think that's the final word. But hear me, God's word is higher than any statement. The report of heaven overrides the report of man. You may have a record of a debt, but God has a record of a destiny. You may have a record of a lack, but God has a record of a provision. When God steps into your situation, He does not consult your past to decide your future. He simply declares what He has already purposed for you. He says, you are blessed, you are favored, you are prosperous. And the moment you believe that, the rewriting begins. You must stop identifying yourself by your financial struggles. Stop calling yourself broke. Stop saying you can't afford it. Stop speaking like a victim. Every word you speak is a seed in the soil of your destiny. When you say, I can, you lack heaven's resources. But when you say, God is providing, you open the gate of divine abundance. God works with the words you release in faith. Speak abundance, even when you see lack. Speak growth, even when everything around you feels stagnant. Speak prosperity, even when the numbers say otherwise. Your words invite the rewriting hand of God. There are people watching this right now who feel forgotten. You've done everything right. You've worked, prayed, tithed, given, and yet nothing seems to move. But God says, do not measure my power by your timing. Sometimes God delays because He is perfecting. Sometimes He withholds because He is preparing. When God rewrites, He does not rush. He rewrites in alignment with eternity. And when the page turns, it will turn swiftly. The same God who can turn night into day can turn your story in one moment. One phone call, one opportunity, one idea, one divine connection, and everything can change. There is a spiritual economy that is greater than any financial system on earth. When you connect with God's economy, you become recession-proof. You become inflation-proof because your source is not man, it is God. The world may shake, but those rooted in God will always rise. You will not depend on the limited flow of man's provision, but on the limitless overflow of divine supply. There are ideas sleeping inside you that heaven wants to awaken. There are inventions, books, businesses, and investments waiting for your obedience. When God rewrites your financial record, He also rewrites your mindset. He delivers you from the mentality of lack. He removes the fear of running out and replaces it with the confidence of running over. You are not a beggar in the kingdom of God. You are a steward of divine resources. You are not called to live beneath circumstances. You are called to dominate them. God did not design you to chase blessings. He designed you to create them. When God rewrites your record, He gives you wisdom that multiplies what you have. He gives you the discipline to sustain wealth, the vision to expand it, and the generosity to share it. Because true prosperity is not how much you keep, but how much you release. The river that keeps flowing never runs dry. Many people block their rewriting because they compare their lives to others. Stop measuring your season by someone else's timeline. God writes uniquely. What takes another 10 years can take you 10 days when God's hand is upon you. Your story is sacred. Your path is divine. Your breakthrough is personal. The same God who raised one from the dust can raise you from death. The same God who multiplied the seed can multiply your resources. He can turn one stream into 7. He can open doors where walls existed. He can create a way through what looked impossible. And when He does, you will know it was not luck, it was rewriting. God is removing every label of poor, incapable, and average from your record. He is clothing you with the garments of divine favor. You will walk into places that your qualifications could not access. You will receive approvals that others thought impossible. You will see money come to you through channels that make no earthly sense. God will use even your enemies to fund your assignment. The wealth of the wicked is being transferred into righteous hands, and those hands may be yours. Do not underestimate what God can do through obedience. When He tells you to give, give. When He tells you to wait, wait. When He tells you to act, act. Every instruction carries provision. Every step of faith rewrites a line of your destiny. God cannot bless rebellion, but He will always honor obedience. And the moment your obedience aligns with His will, heaven's supply begins to flow without limit. You will look back one day and say, if I had known what God was preparing, I would have never doubted. You are entering a season of supernatural replacement. Everything you lost financially, every investment that failed, every deal that collapsed, every opportunity that slipped, God is about to restore it in multiplied form. You will not recover the same way. You will recover greater. The years of pain will turn into years of plenty. The same table where you wept will become the table of feasting. The same place where you were embarrassed will become the place where you are elevated. When God rewrites, He compensates. He does not just restore what was lost. He adds interest. Lift your eyes from the problem and fix them on the provider. Stop crying over what left and start rejoicing over what's coming. Your faith must move before your finances move. Speak abundance, live expectancy, walk like one who knows God is working behind the scenes. You are not waiting for money. Money is waiting for you to believe. You are not waiting for opportunity. Opportunity is waiting for your obedience. God is already positioning people, aligning circumstances, and rearranging timelines just to fulfill what He has written about you. The rewriting is not random, it is intentional. God is rewriting your financial records because He wants your life to be a testimony. People will look at you and say, how did this happen? And you will say, God did it. Your wealth will become worship. Your success will become a sermon. Your prosperity will speak louder than any words. Because when God blesses you, He blesses you to display His glory. He blesses you so that others may see His power through your story. Now hear me clearly. God is not only rewriting your financial records, He is rewriting the very way you think about provision. For too long, many of you have looked at money as a commodity, as a struggle, as something that is earned by sweat and worry. But God wants you to understand that provision is a reflection of His presence in your life. Your abundance is not dependent on the economy, on human favor, or on chance. Your abundance flows because God has determined it. Every limitation you have experienced is being undone, not by your efforts alone, but by the divine intervention of the Almighty. What man cannot change, God can. What the world cannot provide, God can supply. The shift you have been waiting for is spiritual first and financial second. The moment your spirit aligns with God's plan, your bank account will obey the invisible laws of heaven. Listen carefully, because this is a principle that most people miss. God does not rewrite your financial records merely to make you comfortable. He rewrites them to make you courageous. He is creating a confidence in you that no situation, no setback, no debt, no crisis can shake. You will walk into rooms, into negotiations, into opportunities, and you will know that the unseen hand of God is behind you. You will not rely on flattery, on manipulation, or on persuasion, because you will have the authority of divine backing. People will feel it in your presence. They will recognize that the source of your success is not ordinary, it is extraordinary. This is the power of a record rewritten by God. And do not underestimate the subtle ways God works. Sometimes the rewriting begins quietly. A small increase here, a sudden idea there, a chance meeting that seems insignificant, but these are the strokes of the pen of heaven. They are God's whispers, His markers, His divine blueprint being laid out. If you dismiss them as coincidence, you delay your breakthrough. If you embrace them with the faith, you accelerate it. God is meticulous. He does not act hastily. Every detail is calculated. Every opportunity designed to bring you from lack to overflow. Your awareness must rise to recognize His movement, for often the rewriting occurs where you least expect it. Your financial record is not just being rewritten in material terms, it is being rewritten in spiritual terms. God is aligning your character, your discipline, your vision, and your generosity with the provision that is coming. For wealth that is not rooted in wisdom is a seed that will wither. God wants your record rewritten so that you are not only blessed, but also prepared to steward that blessing. You will not just receive, you will manage it, multiply, and release. The riches that are being prepared for you will not enslave you. They will empower you. They will not make you proud. They will make you grateful. They will not be temporary. They will be eternal in their impact. Some of you have been looking for shortcuts, for quick fixes, for secret formulas to wealth. Listen carefully. There is only one secret: alignment with God. When your thoughts, your plans, your actions, and your faith line up with His will, provision flows. And when provision flows, it is unstoppable. You may have seen others stumble with wealth because they attempted to acquire it apart from divine guidance. But your wealth, your record, your destiny, these are written by God's hand. No human error, no market collapse, no opposition can erase what God has decreed. You are entering a season where every effort, every seed sown, every skill you apply will be multiplied by unseen forces that work in your favor. There are moments in life when your financial reality feels fixed, unchangeable. The debts feel permanent. The opportunity is limited. The struggle unending. But God is the author of new beginnings. He is not limited by what is. He is only limited by your faith. The same God who can command the universe into order can command abundance into your life. You will witness miracles in the marketplace, in your investments, in your career, your businesses, your skills, your talents. All of them will become instruments of provision beyond human calculation. You will see returns that defy logic because God is rewriting the record with a signature that is supernatural. Do not fear those who mock your vision. Do not be discouraged by those who doubt your potential. Every time someone questions your ability, God writes a line in your favor. Every time the world says impossible, God says already done. This is the paradox of divine rewriting. The more the world resists, the more God moves. When you keep your faith alive, when you continue to act in obedience, God turns opposition into opportunity. What others call failure, God calls preparation. What others call disappointment, God calls strategy. Every setback is being rewritten into a setup for your blessing. Every closed door is being rewritten into an open highway for your provision. You must understand the power of speaking what God has already written. Your words are not empty. They are instruments of faith. When you declare God is rewriting my financial record, you are aligning yourself with the decree of heaven. When you speak faith in the face of scarcity, you invite God to move faster. Do not shrink in your declarations. Do not whisper timid prayers. Boldly speak life over your finances. Boldly claim the abundance that God has already written. Boldly act with confidence, even if the balance shows otherwise. The unseen realm will catch up with the spoken word, and your financial reality will transform. God is also rewriting your network, your connection, your allies. He is positioning people around you who will accelerate your growth. He is opening doors to partnership, to mentorship, to opportunities that are divinely timed. Pay attention to the people He places in your path. Not every meeting is coincidental. Not every conversation is trivial. God is orchestrating alignment, creating a web of support and opportunity that will converge to manifest your rewritten record. Your environment will change because God is changing it, and your interactions will become catalyst for breakthrough. And as the rewriting continues, you will notice a shift in your mindset. Scarcity thinking will give way to abundance thinking. Fear will be replaced with faith. Anxiety will be replaced with assurance. You will begin to see money not as a source of worry, but as a tool of empowerment. You will begin to recognize opportunities that once passed unnoticed. Your vision will expand, your goals will rise, and your courage will grow. The rewriting of your financial record is not just external, it is internal. God transforms not only what you have, but also who you are becoming. There are moments when you may feel overwhelmed by the enormity of what God is doing. You may feel unworthy, unprepared, or incapable. But that is exactly when God's rewriting shines brightest. He does not require perfection. He requires faith. He does not demand experience. He demands obedience. The hand that writes destiny is patient and it is persistent. Every prayer you prayed in secrecy, every sacrifice you made in hope, every act of faith that seemed unnoticed, God is taking all of it, weaving it into a record of provision that will astonish the world. When you finally see it manifest, you will realize it was not your effort, but God's power that created the abundance. You will also learn the joy of giving in this season. God rewrites your record, not just to increase your wealth, but to expand your influence. The moment you understand that your increase is not just for yourself, but for others, you unlock a higher level of blessing. The more you bless, the more you receive, the more you sow into righteous hand, the more God multiplies your harvest. Your abundance will become a river that touches lives, heals situations, and demonstrates the character of God. True wealth is measured not by accumulation, but by the impact it creates. God is teaching you this as He rewrites your record. You are entering a time when your history of lack will no longer define you. Your story of struggle will no longer limit you. God is turning what seemed impossible into evidence of His provision. Opportunities will multiply, resources will expand, and doors that were sealed will swing open. You will look back at the days of waiting, the nights of worry, the seasons of limitation, and you will see them as the very soil in which your abundance was planted. God's rewriting has purpose, timing, and perfection. Nothing is wasted in His hands. Every moment of struggle is now part of the prelude to your breakthrough. Now, hear me. God is not merely changing your circumstances. He is transforming your very identity. Your financial record is being rewritten because God wants you to walk as a person who carries abundance naturally, as one whose presence brings increase. He is removing every limitation that told you you cannot, and replacing it with divine capability that declares, you can because I am with you. The same God who causes rivers to flow in deserts is now releasing provision in your life in ways that the world cannot explain. You will step into situations that once terrified you, and you will step out victorious, not because of skill, strategy, or luck, but because God Himself has rewritten your story and established your authority over lack. There is a spiritual principle I want you to understand. God often rewrites before you even ask. Many wait for a sign, for a solution, for an opening, but God moves in secrecy. He rearranges circumstances, aligns resources, and prepares your breakthrough even while you are asleep. Do not mistake your current state for finality. The seed that seems buried is already germinating under the soil of heaven. The river that seems dry has already been filled in the spiritual realm. Your bank account, your business, your opportunities are already written in abundance. The moment your faith rises to recognize it, the manifestation will follow. Do not rush God's timing, but do not doubt it either. Trust that His rewriting is perfect and unstoppable. Some of you are worried about the size of your blessing. You think God cannot provide this much. Well, this is too great for me to handle. I tell you today, your mind limits what God intends. God does not measure provision by your imagination. He measures it by your faith. The universe is not constrained by human reasoning. When God writes, He writes infinitely. When He blesses abundantly. You are not being prepared for mediocrity. You are being prepared for miracles. You are not being readied for ordinary increase. You are being readied for supernatural overflow. Every small step you take in obedience is building the foundation for wealth that cannot be counted by earthly standards. You must understand that God's rewriting is also about alignment. He is aligning your heart, your purpose, and your decisions with what He has ordained for you. Provision that comes apart from alignment can vanish, but provision that is divinely aligned endures. That is why God often tests your faith with seasons of waiting, scarcity, or challenge. He is not punishing you, He is preparing you. He is ensuring that when abundance flows, it flows through hands that will manage it with wisdom, distribute it with integrity, and honor it with gratitude. God is not only writing a new financial record, He's writing a record of character, wisdom, and spiritual maturity that will sustain that wealth for generations. There are those who try to manipulate circumstances through schemes, shortcuts, or hidden agendas. Do not be tempted by these things. God's rewriting is not about cleverness, it is about faithfulness. Obedience, honesty, perseverance, and vision are the instruments God uses to rewrite your life. The wisdom you need to handle wealth, the strategy to grow it, the timing to receive it, these are gifts from God released only to those who trust Him completely. When you place your confidence in your own understanding, you delay the rewriting. But when you place your confidence in God, every principle of provision flows in your favor. The world cannot give you what God is preparing. The hands of man cannot provide what heaven has decreed. Your breakthrough is spiritual first and financial second. And as your financial record is rewritten, watch for the power of multiplication. God does not only restore what was lost, He multiplies it. What seemed like a small talent or skill, a minor connection, a forgotten idea, God can transform it into a source of great provision. Every act of faith, every seed sown in obedience, every step you took, even when it seemed futile, God multiplies it. You will experience increase in unexpected ways, relationships that open doors, ideas that attract capital, opportunities that exceed your imagination. This is the nature of divine rewriting. God does not merely compensate, He exceeds expectations. Your financial record will not simply be balanced, it will overflow. Do not fear comparison. Do not envy the success of others. God's rewriting is unique, tailored to you, and timed perfectly. Someone else's breakthrough does not limit yours. The delays you see are not denials. They are divine preparation. Your blessing will come exactly when it should, in the magnitude that God has ordained, and in the manner that will bring glory to His name. Do not settle for less because you are impatient. Do not doubt because you cannot see the full picture. Trust the unseen. Obey the voice that calls you, and let the hand of God write without interference from fear, doubt, or comparison. There are people who think that prayer alone is enough, but let me tell you, God's rewriting is activated by combination of faith and action. Prayer opens the door, but action walks through it. Faith is the key, but diligence is the vehicle. God honors those who move. He does not bless laziness, excuses, or passivity. He blesses obedience, initiative, and persistence. Even when the path seems unclear, even when the balance looks empty, even when the world says stop, God says move forward. Your financial record is being rewritten, but you must walk in the steps that faith creates. Do not wait for the entire road to appear. Take the step God calls you to today. You are entering a time when limitations will no longer have a voice. Depths that whispered doubt will vanish. Opportunities that were invisible will appear. Doors that were shut will open. God is rewriting your record to reflect abundance, authority, and influence. You will no longer live paycheck to paycheck, hand to mouth. You will no longer struggle in silence. The records of your life will reflect divine provision, and every account of lack will be transformed into an account of favor. This is not luck. It is the deliberate work of God. This is not coincidence. It is the strategy of heaven. This is your season of a rewrite. And as God rewrites, He will also expand your capacity to receive. Some of you have been limited not by the lack of resources, but by the limits in your own thinking. God is enlarging your mind, increasing your capacity to handle wealth, to manage resources, and to distribute provision. You will think bigger, dream higher, and act with greater courage. You will no longer be intimidated by abundance because God is training you to steward it. You are not simply entering a season of more, you are entering a season of greater wisdom, greater influence, and greater impact. The rewriting is not just external, it is internal. God is shaping you into the person capable of carrying His provision with integrity and power. Do not be discouraged by setbacks. Do not be silenced by failure. Every obstacle you face is an opportunity for God to rewrite a stronger, more compelling story. Every financial challenge, every delay, every closed door is a setup for a breakthrough that will exceed your imagination. God does not write the stories of defeat. He writes the stories of victory. Your record may have shown losses before, but from this moment forward, it will reflect divine increase. You will witness transformation that will astonish you, your family, and everyone around you. The testimony of your life will become evidence that God alone rewrites destinies and provides abundantly for those who trust Him. So now, lift your eyes and lift your heart, for the time of waiting is over. The same God who has watched over you, who has heard every whispered prayer, who has observed every seed you have sown in hope, is now releasing the fullness of His provision into your life. Your financial record, once marked by struggle, limitation, and delay, has been rewritten by the hand of the Almighty. The pages of lack are torn away, and in their place, God has written abundance, overflow, and divine favor. Do not limit this moment with doubt. Do not shrink back into fear or hesitation. Walk boldly into the reality that God has prepared for you. Speak life over your finances, act with faith in your ventures, give with a generous heart, and trust that every step you take is under divine guidance. The doors that were closed will open. The resources that were hidden will be revealed. The opportunities that seem distant will arrive at your feet. What was lost is being restored. What was broken is being rebuilt. What was delayed is arriving in perfect timing. Remember this. Your abundance is not an accident. It is not luck. It is not merely hard work. It is the deliberate divine rewriting of your destiny by the one who holds all power, wisdom, and authority. You are no longer defined by the limits of yesterday. You are no longer bound by the scarcity of the past. You are being elevated into a life of provision, purpose, and blessing that reflect the glory and power of God. Walk in faith, speak with authority, act with confidence, keep with joy, receive with gratitude. And know without a shadow of doubt that God is not just giving you resources, He is giving you the testimony of His power, the witness of His faithfulness, and the proof that He alone is the author of all increase. The financial record of your life has been rewritten, and your season of overflow has arrived. Rejoice, rise, and step into the abundance that God has already prepared for you. Listen to me carefully, because this message is not for every woman. This is for the woman who has cried in secret, who has walked through fire, who has been broken by betrayal, and yet still whispers in the dark, God, I trust you. This is for the woman who has reached the point where her tears have become her prayers. The woman who has seen doors close, people walk away, opportunities vanish, and still refuses to bow before the world. She stands, she waits, she trusts, because she knows a woman of God doesn't beg. She trusts God. When a woman belongs to God, there is a certain dignity upon her spirit. She may be wounded, but she does not collapse. She may be tested, but she does not compromise. She may lose everything the world promised her, but she does not lose her confidence in the one who holds everything in His hands. A woman of God knows that what is meant for her cannot be taken away. She knows that if God has written her destiny, no man, no circumstance, and no failure can erase it. So, when the world expects her to plead, to chase, to beg, she instead falls to her knees and speaks to God, not to people. She knows her help does not come from man. It comes from above. You see, begging comes from fear, but trusting comes from faith. When you beg, you are saying, I need someone to give me what I cannot live without. But when you trust God, you are saying, even if I lose it all, I will still be complete because I have God. That is the posture of a woman of faith. She does not live desperate for attention, desperate for validation, desperate for acceptance. Her soul is anchored in something far greater than human approval. Her spirit is fixed on the eternal. She does not need to fight for a seat at the table because she knows God can prepare a whole table for her, even in the presence of her enemies. There are women who think that to be loved, they must chase love. That to be respected, they must lower themselves. That to be seen, they must beg to be noticed. But a woman of God knows if it is from God, she will never have to beg for it. If it is aligned with the divine will, it will come with a peace, not pressure. If it is destined, it will not require humiliation. What comes from God carries grace, not desperation. What comes from God fits your spirit, not just your emotions. So stop begging people to stay. Stop begging life to give you what it has already denied, and start trusting that what left was not meant to destroy you, but to redirect you. There are seasons in a woman's life where everything she thought she needed begins to fall apart. Friendships end, relationships die, opportunities vanish. And she stands there wondering, why is this happening to me? But what she does not realize is that God is not punishing her, He is protecting her. God is not rejecting her, He is redirecting her. Because sometimes God has to strip away everything that is distracting you so you can learn that you never needed to beg the world when you already had the favor of heaven. A woman of God understands timing. She knows that what is delayed is not denied. She knows that silence from God does not mean absence. It means preparation. When others panic in the waiting, she praises in the waiting. When others run around trying to fix everything, she stands still and lets God fight for her. She does not beg people to notice her worth because she knows that God will send the right eyes to see her when it is time. She does not beg for love because she knows that when God is ready, love will find her already home. She does not beg for opportunities because she knows God can open one door that makes up for every door that was ever closed. A woman who trusts God is a dangerous woman. She cannot be manipulated because her heart is not controlled by approval. She cannot be broken because her strength is not built on people. She cannot be defeated because she fights her battles in prayer, not panic. You may see her quiet, but she is not weak. You may see her alone, but she is not abandoned. She knows who walks with her. She knows who defends her. And that knowledge gives her peace that the world cannot understand. Sometimes God will take a woman through isolation just to teach her not to depend on human validation. He will let people ignore her. So she learns that she does not need their applause to fulfill her destiny. He will let doors close so she stops knocking on the wrong ones. He will let certain people betray her, not because he wants to hurt her, but because he wants her to see that not everyone deserves access to her spirit. That's when she learned begging keeps you trapped, but trusting sets you free. There's a beauty in stillness that only a woman of faith understands. When she stopped chasing, she started attracting. When she stopped pleading, she started receiving. Because the energy of trust is magnetic, it pulls divine order into her life. When she trusts God, she releases control. And in releasing control, she allows God to move freely on her behalf. She realized that begging says, I need to hold this together. But trusting says, God, you hold it all together. The moment she lets go of the need to control outcomes, she steps into divine flow. And in that flow, everything aligns. Some of you are still begging for things that are beneath your calling, begging for attention from people who don't value you, begging for love from hearts that were never meant to understand you, begging for opportunities that are too small for the destiny God placed inside you. It's time to stop begging and start believing. If you knew who you are in God's eyes, you would never chase anything again. You would realize that God never created you to run after crumbs when He has already prepared a feast for you. A woman of God walks differently. Her silence is not weakness, it is wisdom. Her patience is not passivity, it is a power. Her stillness is not stagnation, it is a surrender. She doesn't need to prove her worth because she knows her worth is sealed by divine favor. When she walks into a room, her presence speaks louder than her words because she carries something sacred. The quiet confidence of a woman who trusts God fully. That is a power no man can imitate and no circumstance can break. And let me tell you this, when a woman stops begging and starts trusting, everything in her life begins to change. Her relationship changes. Her energy changes. Her decisions change. She stops trying to please everyone because she only seeks to please God. She stops over-explaining herself because she knows that truth defends itself. She stops worrying about the future because she knows the one who holds it. Her whole being shifts from desperation to divine peace. You can feel it when you're around her. She radiates faith. she glows differently because her light doesn't come from validation. It comes from revelation. You must understand, there is a difference between asking God and begging the world. Asking God is a sign of trust. Begging the world is a sign of fear. A woman of faith asks boldly but waits patiently. She prays deeply but moves wisely. She does not rush to make things happen. She aligns herself with the divine timing. She knows that sometimes God's not yet is His way of saying, I'm preparing something better. So she doesn't panic when things don't go as planned. She doesn't lose sleep over what's missing. She keeps her peace because she knows that peace is proof of trust. When a woman trusts God, even her tears become holy. She cries differently, not out of despair, but out of surrender. Her pain becomes her prayer. Her waiting becomes her worship. Her silence becomes her strength. She doesn't need to broadcast her struggles because she knows God sees what others don't. She understands that favor doesn't need an announcement. It reveals itself in time. That is the mystery of divine trust. You stop explaining yourself and let results speak for you. You can always recognize a woman who trusts God. She's not loud, but she's powerful. She's not bitter, but she's wise. She's not anxious, but she's alert. She carries peace like perfume. Wherever she goes, the atmosphere shifts. Because when you live in trust, you carry the fragrance of divine assurance. It's the quiet authority of someone who knows that even if everything looks wrong, God is still working it out right. She no longer begs for blessings. She becomes a magnet for them. And let me say this with the power, you don't have to chase what God has chosen for you. You don't have to convince anyone to love you, support you, or believe in you. What is yours will recognize you when it sees you. What is meant for you will not pass you by. So stop begging people to stay who were meant to leave. Stop begging for acceptance in places where your spirit doesn't belong. Stop begging for opportunities that require you to shrink your light. Trust that if something left, it was not lost, it was divine redirection. God never removes something unless He's making room for something better. A woman who trusts God does not fear tomorrow. She has seen too much of His faithfulness to doubt His plan. She's been through too much to believe that this is the end of her story. She knows that her delays are not denials, her rejections are not defeats, and her loneliness is not abandonment. Everything is divine strategy. Every disappointment carries direction. Every heartbreak hides wisdom. She knows that in time, everything will make sense. So she keeps her spirit calm, her faith steady, and her eyes on God. Do you know what makes such a woman unshakable? Is that she no longer measures her worth by how others treat her. She measures her worth by what God says about her. She no longer reacts to rejection. She responds with redirection. She no longer gets offended easily. She has learned to rest in understanding. Because once you know that God is in control, you no longer fight for control. You simply flow in peace. Many of you are tired because you've been begging for things that cannot fill you. You've been begging people to love you right, to see your worth, to return your energy, and it's breaking your spirit. But God is whispering to you today, daughter, you were never meant to beg for what I can freely give. The moment you turn your eyes back to God, you realize that everything you were begging for was already inside you. Peace, strength, love, purpose. It was never lost. It was just buried beneath your worry. God is calling you to rise again. not as a beggar, but as a believer. There's a special kind of woman who can walk through fire and not smell like smoke, who can lose everything and still smile, who can cry through the night and wake up with gratitude in the morning. That is a woman who has learned the secret to trust God completely. Her strength doesn't come from the world. It comes from knowing that God is faithful. She doesn't need to beg for peace because peace lives within her. She doesn't need to beg for love because love flows through her. She doesn't need to beg for provision because provision follows her wherever she goes. When she trusts God, she becomes a living testimony of divine favor. When a woman truly begins to trust God, something shifts inside her spirit that cannot be undone. Her perception changes, her decisions change, her emotional temperature changes. She stops reacting to everything around her because she has learned that not every battle deserves her energy. She becomes selective about what deserves her response because she knows that anything not ordained by God is a distraction sent to drain her peace. She begins to live with a holy restraint, not because she is weak, but because she has learned that her strength is better used in prayer than in panic. That is the quiet confidence of a woman who knows her worth is sealed by God's hand, not people's approval. There comes a point when begging becomes beneath the dignity of a woman chosen by God. It is not arrogance, it is awareness. Awareness of who she is, awareness of who God is, awareness of what divine timing means. She no longer feels the need to chase after what belongs to someone else. She no longer envies the success of others. She no longer compares her path because she knows that her journey was never meant to mirror anyone else's. She understands that God has assigned her a rhythm, a pace, and a process. She moves when He says move, waits when He says wait, and rest when He says rest. Her heart is synchronized with heaven. That is why she can endure storms and still smile, because her peace does not depend on perfect conditions. It depends on perfect trust. A woman who trusts God becomes fearless in the face of uncertainty. When others see endings, she sees beginnings. When others see lack, she sees opportunity. When others are afraid to let go, she releases without hesitation, because she knows that when she lets go of what is fading, her hands become free to receive what is coming. This is not blind faith, this is a refined faith. It is the kind of faith that has been tested by disappointment, purified by pain, and strengthened by waiting. Trust is not born in comfort. It is born in surrender. A woman of faith does not beg because she has learned that God is never late. What looks delayed to her eyes is perfectly timed in God's plan. There are moments when life will test your faith so fiercely that you will be tempted to compromise your dignity. You will want to call back the one who left. You will want to chase after the opportunity that slipped away. You will want to plead for what once felt familiar. But hear this truth: if you must beg to keep it, it is not blessed. If you must sacrifice your peace to maintain it, it is not from God. Anything that requires you to lower your spiritual standard is not meant to remain. A woman who trusts God knows that rejection is redirection. She knows that closed doors are divine protection. She knows that what she loses in obedience, she will gain in favor. The world teaches women to chase attention, chase beauty, chase validation, chase success. But a woman of God knows that what you chase controls you. What you attract through alignment with God's will sustains you. The difference is peace. The woman who begs may receive something, but she will never rest in it. The woman who trusts may wait longer, but when her blessing arrives, it comes with peace that surpasses understanding. It fits her soul. It aligns with her purpose. It amplifies her light instead of dimming it. She doesn't need to manipulate outcomes because she lives under divine order. There is a sacred power in waiting silently before God. The world calls it inactivity. The Spirit calls it strength. Waiting is not weakness, it is warfare. While others rush, a woman who trusts waits strategically. She knows that patience is not just enduring time, it is aligning with the divine wisdom. She refuses to beg because she understands that begging demands from people what only God can provide. And she refuses to cheapen her value by asking humans for what heaven has already reserved for her. You see, when a woman begs, she is trying to control the narrative. But when she trusts, she allows God to write it. She stopped trying to fix what she never broke. She stopped trying to explain what only time will reveal. She stopped trying to prove her worth to those who are blind to it. She stopped trying to convince anyone to stay because she understands that loyalty cannot be purchased. It can only be inspired. And she stopped trying to make life happen faster because she knows that every divine promise carries a gestation period. There is a spiritual womb where blessings are formed. And if she tries to force them before their time, they will be premature. So she trusts the process. She prays while she waits. She worships while she works. She grows while she rests. That is the rhythm of divine womanhood. A woman who trusts God doesn't just survive seasons, she learns from them. Every delay refines her. Every disappointment strengthens her. Every heartbreak opens her eyes to deeper wisdom. She stops asking, why me? And starts saying, use me. She stops seeing pain as punishment and starts seeing it as preparation. She knows that every trial is shaping her into the woman she was destined to become. And when she finally stands on the other side of the storm, she realized that the struggle was not to break her, it was to reveal her. God was not testing her faith to humiliate her, but to elevate her. There are many women who live their lives begging for things that do not align with their purpose. They beg for love from hearts that are incapable of loving them. They beg for opportunities that require them to lose themselves. They beg for recognition in spaces that were never meant to honor them. But a woman who trusts God knows that not every gift is a blessing. Some gifts are traps in disguise. She has learned that discernment is greater than desire. She no longer prays for everything she wants. She prays for what God wants her to have because she knows that divine will always brings divine protection. The woman who trusts God also learns the art of silence. She no longer explains her journey to people who will never understand it. She no longer defends her peace to those who thrive on chaos. She no longer seeks closure from those who were not meant to be part of her story. Her silence is not confusion, it is confidence. Confidence that God will vindicate her. Confidence that truth always outlives lies. Confidence that her destiny cannot be destroyed by human opinion. That is the stillness of a power, the peace that comes when you stop arguing and start ascending. Trusting God is not easy. It requires surrendering the illusion of a control. It requires walking by faith when your emotions scream for evidence. It requires believing that God is working even when nothing makes sense. But a woman who has walked with God knows that His silence is not His absence. She knows that His no is open protection, and His delay is open direction. That is why she can face uncertainty with grace. Her heart may tremble, but her faith does not falter. She walks through darkness as if she already sees the light, because deep inside she knows God never fails the one who waits on Him. Sometimes trusting God means standing alone. It means being misunderstood. It means losing people who cannot walk at your pace. But that solitude is not a curse, it is sanctification. God isolates before He elevates. He hides before He honors. He teaches before He reveals. So when life feels silent, when your prayers seem unanswered, when you feel forgotten, remember this: God is not ignoring you. He is preparing you. Preparation is painful because it purifies. Trust requires purification of the heart, removing fear, ego, and doubt until all that remains is faith. The woman who trusts God glows differently. Her beauty does not come from appearance. It comes from alignment. Her confidence is not arrogance. It is awareness of divine favor. Her strength is not loud. It is steady. She moves with purpose because she is guided by wisdom, not impulse. She does not beg for validation because she has tasted peace, and peace is addictive. Once you experience the peace that comes from trusting God, you will never again settle for the chaos of chasing people. And that is where true power begins. A woman who trusts God cannot be controlled. She cannot be manipulated by fear because her faith is greater than her feelings. She cannot be deceived by appearances because she sees through the eyes of discernment. She cannot be intimidated by laws because she knows that what is taken from her was never meant to remain. Her power lies not in resistance, but in surrender. She surrenders her will to God, and in doing so, she becomes unstoppable. When you trust God, you begin to realize that the things you once begged for no longer move you. You stop craving what does not align with your peace. You stop chasing temporary satisfaction. You stop needing constant reassurance because you are full of faith, full of purpose, full of divine contentment. Begging comes from emptiness. Trusting comes from fullness. When you live in fullness, you no longer approach life with a desperation. You approach it with a gratitude. Every sunrise becomes a reminder that God is still faithful. Every challenge becomes an opportunity to witness His power again. A woman who trusts God is not easily shaken by the opinions of others. She knows that critics are proof of progress. She knows that gossip is confirmation that she is being elevated. She does not fight rumors. She lets her results speak. She does not respond to mockery. She lets time vindicate her. Her spirit is too focused to be distracted, too wise to be provoked, too secure to be offended. This maturity is not learned in comfort. It is learned in communion with God. When you spend time with God, you begin to reflect His calm. You begin to move with quiet authority because you realize that the power that sustains you does not come from outside. It flows from within. And when such a woman speaks, her words carry weight because her tongue is guided by wisdom, not emotion. She speaks peace, and peace follows. She speaks truth, and darkness flees. She speaks life, and things begin to bloom again. This is what happens when a woman stops begging for outcomes and starts trusting the one who creates outcomes. She becomes a vessel of divine expression. Her life becomes a message. Her presence becomes a prayer. Her actions become a reflection of divine order. Let it be known, a woman of God who trusts is unshakable. She may cry, but she rises. She may stumble, but she stands again. She may lose, but she never quits. Because her faith is not built on feelings, it is built on foundation. And that foundation is God, unchanging, eternal, and faithful. There are moments in a woman's journey when trusting God will not feel easy, nor will it feel fair. There will be nights when our prayers echo in silence, and mornings when our strength feels thin. Yet this is where faith matures, not when everything is clear, but when she chooses to walk through the fog, believing that God still sees. A woman who trusts God does not need every answer. She does not demand explanation. She understands that some things are hidden, not to punish her, but to preserve her. Some seasons are dark, not to frighten her, but to fortify her. When she cannot trace God's hand, she still trusts His wisdom. Trust is not built in the light. It is forged in the dark. It is in those unseen places where God tests what she truly believes. When the comfort disappears and the applause fades, will she still whisper, "I know you are good"? When nothing moves, will she still move in obedience? When her plans crumble, will she still believe in purpose? That is the measure of a true woman of faith. She does not beg God to remove her storm. She asks for the strength to stand through them, because she knows that the storms are not signs of abandonment, but instruments of refinement. Every trial is a classroom where she learns the language of divine trust. When she trusts God, she begins to see beyond the surface. She understands that life is not random, it is orchestrated. Every encounter, every delay, every detour is part of a divine composition. What looks like chaos to her eyes is often perfect design in God's sight. She no longer complains about what left her. She blesses it because she realizes that if God allowed it to end, it was necessary for her growth. Sometimes God will remove people not because they are evil, but because they cannot travel to the next level with you. Sometimes He will close doors not because you failed, but because you succeeded in what that door was meant to teach you. The woman who trusts God stops questioning every ending. She starts thanking Him for new beginnings disguised as loss. Trust gives her freedom from fear. Fear is the currency of the world, but faith is the currency of heaven. Fear makes you beg. Faith makes you rest. When fear governs you, you live in panic, always thinking you will miss your moment. But when faith governs you, you understand that your moment cannot miss you. You stop running after opportunities and start preparing for them. You stop chasing people and start becoming the version of yourself that God can bless. Because when your heart is aligned, blessings are magnetized to you. They come not because you beg, but because you are ready. A woman who trusts God carries herself differently. She moves with grace even when misunderstood. She speaks with calm even when provoked. Her presence carries peace because she has been with God in secret places. Her confidence does not come from perfection, but from presence, the presence of God that surrounds her wherever she goes. She does not need to shout to be heard. Her spirit already speaks. She does not need to prove her power. Her silence already declares it. Because the woman who has surrendered everything to God has nothing left to fear. There are many who will not understand this kind of peace. They will think she is careless because she doesn't panic. They will think she is detached because she doesn't chase. But what they don't see is that her peace was purchased through surrender. It is not laziness, it is trust. She has wrestled with worry long enough to know that it only drains her. She has begged long enough to know that it brings humiliation but not results. She has tried controlling outcomes long enough to know that control is an illusion. So now she chooses higher way, the way of trust. Trust that says, I don't need to know what happened next. I just need to know that God is in it. When a woman trusts God, she starts walking in divine rhythm. She no longer forces connections or manipulates timelines. She understands that rushing is the language of anxiety, while resting is the language of faith. She refuses to hurry God. She knows that anything forced by fear will crumble, but anything built on faith will last. She is patient, not because waiting is easy, but because she knows who she is waiting on. She knows that God's timing is not just perfect, it is protective. If it hasn't happened yet, it is because He is still shaping her, preparing her, or shielding her from something that would have harmed her spirit. Sometimes the greatest act of trust is to do nothing, to stop striving, to stop explaining, to stop fixing, and to let God move. The woman of God learned that rest is a form of worship. Stillness is not passivity, it is confidence. It is saying, I have done my part, now I trust God to do His. This posture of surrender brings miracles because it removes interference. When you stop touching what only God can handle, divine order begins to flow. This is why the woman who trusts God seems to experience sudden breakthroughs. It is not that her prayers were louder, it's that her faith was quieter, steady, sure, unshaken. Trust transformed the way she sees herself. No longer does she identify by what she lost. No longer does she define herself by who left. No longer does she shrink to fit in places too small for her destiny. She realized that her value was never up for debate. Begging once made her forget her worth, but trusting has restored it. Now she knows she was never meant to beg for love because she is love when she is aligned with God. She was never meant to beg for peace because peace is her birthright. She was never meant to beg for purpose because her very existence is proof that she was created with intention. A woman who trusts God stops asking, who will help me? And starts saying, God is helping me. She stops saying, what if it doesn't happen? And starts saying, it will happen if it's meant to. She stops saying, I don't have enough, and starts saying, God is my source. This shift in language is a shift in power because words spoken in faith carry authority. When she aligns her tongue with the divine truth, her entire environment begins to respond. Her home, her relationship, her career, her body, everything starts to reflect her trust. Because faith is not just something you feel, it is something you speak, live, and embody. Every woman who trusts God carries a testimony. She can look back at the times she thought she wouldn't survive and smile, because she sees now that even in her breaking, God was building. He was pruning away what could not prosper in her next season. He was teaching her the difference between needing and trusting. Needing says, I can't live without it. Trusting says, I will live better when God decides what I truly need. She realized that something she begged for would have broken her. Some people she prayed to keep would have destroyed her peace. Now she thanks God for unanswered prayers because she understands that unanswered prayers are often answered in a higher form, protection. And when this understanding matures inside her, she becomes unrecognizable. She no longer carries desperation. She carries discernment. She no longer pleads. She prophesies. She no longer collapses under pressure. She stands firm. Her faith no longer wavers with her circumstances because it is rooted in revelation. She knows that God's plan for her life is not fragile. It is fixed. No gossip can ruin it. No delay can destroy it. No failure can cancel it. Her trust becomes her armor. Her faith becomes her shield. Her peace becomes her power. To the woman who is tired of waiting, hear this truth. God has not forgotten you. Every unseen moment, every silent tear, every faithful prayer has been recorded. The delay you see is not neglect, it is divine sequencing. God is aligning people, places, and timing. What you think is slow is actually strategic. And when it finally happens, it will not come piece by piece. It will come suddenly, completely, beautifully, because God does not deliver fragments. He delivers fulfillment. Keep trusting, keep believing, keep standing. Because at the exact moment you are about to give up, God is preparing your breakthrough. When a woman walks in this level of trust, she becomes a light to others. Her peace becomes contagious. Her faith becomes a mirror for others to see what is possible. People begin to ask her, "How are you so calm?" And she smiles because she knows calm is the natural byproduct of complete trust. She has built her life on the unshakable foundation of God's faithfulness. And because of that, nothing external can destroy her internal stability. She has learned that begging might move people, but trusting moves heaven. And once heaven moves, nothing on earth can resist. A woman who trusts God lives with expectancy, not anxiety. She wakes up knowing that something good is always being prepared for her. She no longer worries about who left her life or what didn't work out. She wakes up each morning saying, "God, I trust you today." That one sentence becomes her anchor. It steadies her emotions. It silences her fears. It aligns her thoughts. She begins her day with faith and ends it with gratitude. And slowly she realizes that this peace, this calm, this strength is what she had been searching for all along. Not another person, not another opportunity, but the deep security of knowing that her life is held firmly in God's hand. And so she no longer begs the world to see her. She let her light speak. She no longer begs to be chosen. She knows she already is. She no longer begs for validation. She knows her worth was settled before the foundation of the earth. She is a woman who walks by faith, led by peace, and sustained by trust. A woman who knows that her greatest weapon is not her tears, it is her surrender. And a woman like that cannot be defeated. There are moments in life when your heart feels pulled in every direction, when you see people struggling, broken, or are lost, and something inside you says, "Help them." That instinct is noble. That compassion is divine. But not every person you feel called to help is sent by God. Some are sent by darkness to drain your light. Some are not a test of your kindness. They are a test of your discernment. There are people who will use your goodness as their ladder. And once they've climbed high enough, they'll kick it away. There are people who wear the mask of need but carry a spirit of destruction. And if you do not learn to discern who they are, your blessings will be stolen by the very ones you try to lift. God does not call you to be everyone's savior. He calls you to walk in wisdom. You must understand that helping without discernment can become disobedience. Many people have delayed their destiny because they refuse to let go of those God never assigned to them. You cannot carry everyone into your promise. You cannot pour into every cup. Some cups are cracked, and no matter how much you pour, it will never fill. You will give your energy, your peace, your faith, and still they will remain empty. Not because they need more from you, but because they refuse to fix what's broken within them. There are people who don't want transformation. They want attention. They don't want correction. They want sympathy. They don't want to rise. They want you to fall with them. And if you keep rescuing them, you are standing in the way of what God Himself is trying to teach them. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is walk away. Sometimes the most spiritual act is silence. Sometimes obedience means letting God deal with them, not you. The first type of person you must never help is the one who refuses to take responsibility for their own life. They blame everyone for their situation, their parents, their job, their friends, the world, even God. They live in a constant state of victimhood. And no matter how many times you give them advice, money, or comfort, they will always return to the same pit. Why? Because they are not looking for change. They are looking for someone to carry their excuses. You cannot deliver someone who enjoys their prison. You cannot help someone who has made pain their identity. God never rewards laziness or blame. He rewards effort, faith, and accountability. When you help someone who refuses to take responsibility, you are partnering with their dysfunction. You are financing their stagnation. Step back and let them face themselves. Until they are ready to confront the truth, your help will only feed their weakness. The second type of person you must not help is the one who dishonors your presence. There are people who are drawn to your light but despise the source of it. They love what you can do for them, but they do not value who you are. They come to you for advice but never listen. They call you in crisis, but when peace returns, they disappear. They take, and take again. But gratitude never crosses their lips. You must understand, God does not bless dishonor. The moment you allow people to take from you without respect, you are teaching them that your time, your wisdom, and your peace are cheap. Protect your value. Protect your energy. When you keep helping those who mock or disregard your worth, you are not being humble. You are being careless with the treasure God gave you. The third type of person you must not help is the one who rebels against divine truth. These are people who hear wisdom but reject it. They know what is right but choose what is wrong. They walk in pride, refusing to humble themselves, yet when trouble comes, they want you to fix what their rebellion caused. You cannot rescue someone from consequences they keep creating. If God allows a storm to humble them and you interfere, you are standing between them and their awakening. Sometimes God uses pain to break arrogance. Sometimes He allows failure to reveal the futility of rebellion. Do not interrupt that process. There are moments when stepping back is not cruelty, it is alignment with the divine order. When you help those who defy truth, you are not saving them. You are opposing what God is doing in their life. The fourth type of person you must not help is the one who constantly drains your spirit. There are people who carry an energy that suffocates your peace. Every time you speak with them, you feel weaker. Every time you try to encourage them, they respond with doubt, fear, and negativity. They are not seeking light, they are addicted to darkness. They will find a problem in every solution, a storm in every blessing, a reason to complain in every sunrise. You must learn these truths. You cannot heal someone who is committed to hopelessness. God never called you to be the savior of everyone's emotional world. Protect your spirit from spiritual leeches. If being around someone constantly steals your joy, your clarity, your focus, that is a sign God is telling you to create distance. Your peace is not selfish, it is sacred. The fifth type of person you must not help is the one who uses manipulation disguised as need. These are the ones who cry when they want control, who act broken to make you feel guilty, who twist kindness into obligation. They study your compassion and use it against you. They know you hate to see people suffer, so they will act like they cannot survive without you, not because they truly need you, but because they fear losing your attention. Understand this clearly. Guilt is not guidance. If you are helping someone because you feel pressured, not because you feel led, that is not God, that is manipulation. The enemy often enters through emotional guilt. Stand firm in discernment. You owe no one access to your energy if their motives are deceitful. Real love never manipulates. True. Need never controls. The sixth type of person you must not help is the one who envies you. They smile when you're near but secretly compete with you. They act like your friend but secretly hope you fail. When you succeed, they grow silent. When you struggle, they suddenly reappear. These are dangerous souls because they carry hidden poison. Their envy is not always spoken, it is spiritual. You will feel it. Every time you help them, something within you feels uneasy. That is your inner spirit warning you. This connection is not pure. Do not ignore that signal. Helping someone who envies you is like feeding a snake. No matter how kind you are, one day it will bite. Love them from afar. Pray for their healing. But do not share your plans, your vision, or your heart with them. God removes some people from your path, not because they are bad, but because they cannot handle your destiny. The seventh type of person you must not help is the one who resists the growth. They have been given opportunity after opportunity, but they remain the same. You advise them, you pray for them, you open doors for them, yet they never walk through. Why? Because growth requires humility. Growth requires the willingness to change, to learn, to be uncomfortable. And these people are addicted to comfort. They want blessings without transformation, promotion without discipline, miracles without obedience. You cannot drag someone into maturity. You cannot give motivation to a soul that has chosen stagnation. Every time you try to carry them, you are slowing yourself down. Some people do not need another chance. They need to feel the weight of their choices. Let God handle them. Your assignment is not to keep them comfortable, but to stay aligned with the divine purpose. Helping others is sacred, but helping the wrong people can become a curse. God never designed you to be drained, used, or manipulated. He designed you to operate in wisdom. There is a time to give, and there is a time to walk away. There is a time to support, and there is a time to be still. Discernment is not coldness, it is protection. When you follow God, He will teach you when your helping hand becomes a hindrance. Many people pray for strength, but God's strength often comes through separation. He removes certain people so your energy can return, your peace can rise, and your faith can breathe again. When you stop helping those He did not send you to, doors open, blessings flow, clarity returns. The same time you once wasted trying to fix people becomes time you use to fulfill your purpose. You must understand there is a difference between being kind and being careless. True kindness has boundaries. Even God sets limits. He gives freely, but not without order. He forgives, but He also corrects. He blesses, but He also withdraws from the ungrateful. If the Creator Himself uses discernment in mercy, so should you. Sometimes the hardest act of obedience is to stop helping someone you love, because love often blinds discernment. But remember, love without wisdom becomes distraction. If helping them keeps you anxious, confused, or exhausted, that is not divine love. That is spiritual manipulation. Real love releases. When God says release, real love trusts that letting go is not cruelty, it's alignment. There are people whose lives will never improve because they always have someone rescuing them from consequences. Do not play the role of their deliverer. If they fall, let them rise through experience. If they fail, let them find strength in reflection. The greatest lessons often come through pain, not comfort. And if you keep rescuing them, you are denying them the very experience that could transform them. Helping without boundaries does not make you godly. It makes you unwise. You are not called to carry the entire world, only what God placed in your hands. When you start saying no to the wrong people, you are saying yes to divine direction. Do not fear being misunderstood. People who benefit from your lack of boundaries will always call you selfish when you stop serving their agenda. Let them talk. Let them go. You answer to God, not to human opinion. God will always test your heart through people. Some will be genuine assignments. Your help will heal them. Others will be distractions. Your help will drain you. Pray for discernment daily. Ask God, who is my assignment and who is my distraction? Because the wrong connection can delay your entire destiny. There are helpers who lose their calling because they kept feeding takers. There are dreamers who never built their vision because they kept saving people who refuse to change. Your destiny deserves your focus, not your exhaustion. You are not created to be everyone's solution. You are created to walk in divine purpose, and purpose requires separation. Do not let guilt keep you in relationships God has already ended. Do not let emotion keep you attached to people who only bring confusion. Your peace is your sign. If helping them keeps stealing your peace, God is showing you that your assignment there is over. When you stop helping those who resist growth, who disrespect your value, who manipulate your kindness, or who envy your progress, you make room for divine alignment. You create space for the right people, the ones who value your presence, who multiply your peace, and who help you rise higher in faith and strength. Helping is holy, but helping the wrong person is disobedience. Be wise with your compassion. Guard your energy. Protect your calling. Not everyone who cries deserves your hand. Some only need to feel the weight of silence. Not everyone who asks deserves your time. Some only want your attention, not your wisdom. Pray before you give. Listen before you move. Discern before you act. For every person you are meant to help, there will always be another sent to distract you. When you finally learn this truth, your life will shift. You will stop chasing approval and start walking in purpose. You will stop trying to save everyone and start building what God placed inside you. And as you walk in this divine clarity, you will discover that peace is not the absence of problems. It is the presence of order. God's order. When God begins to elevate your life, He will also begin to expose the people who cannot go with you. That is not punishment, it is protection. God will start showing you who truly stand for you and who only stand near you for their own benefit. Some people come into your life not as blessing, but as barriers. They are not there to support your mission. They are there to drain your focus. And if you do not separate when God shows you the truth, you will lose time, peace, and divine momentum. Helping the wrong people can blind you to the right ones. That is why discernment is one of the highest forms of wisdom. You cannot walk in divine favor and still ignore divine warning. There are people who disguise themselves as humble when in truth they carry hidden pride. They act like they need you, but deep down they resent that they do. These are the ones who pretend to be teachable, but the moment you correct them, they withdraw. You pour into them, yet they secretly measure your flaws. You try to guide them, but they use your words to compete with you. This kind of person is a danger to your peace. Do not mistake false humility for faith. True humility listens. True humility honors correction. True humility does not pretend to learn while waiting to surpass you. When you help such people, you are not lifting them. You are empowering deceit. Let them walk their own path. God will teach them what your words could not. You must understand that God allows certain people to fail, not because He delights in their downfall, but because He wants them to wake up. Pain can be a stronger teacher than advice. Some people will never grow until the comfort of dependency is taken away. If you keep cushioning every fall, they will never learn to stand. Sometimes God's mercy is disguised as distance. When He tells you to step back, it's not because He wants you to stop caring. It is because He wants your caring to stop interfering. There is a difference between compassion and interference. Compassion says, I want you to rise. Interference says, I'll carry you so you don't have to. God does not build the strength through rescue. He builds it through responsibility. There is also the type of person who mistakes your kindness for weakness. They think that because you are gentle, you can be used. They think that because you give easily, you will never stop. But God is not mocked. The one who takes advantage of kindness is not fooling you. They are provoking divine correction. Never feel guilty for walking away from those who abuse your heart. God does not reward those who tolerate manipulation. He rewards those who honor truth. When you stop allowing yourself to be used, you are not being cruel, you are being obedient, because your purpose is sacred. And God will not allow it to be contaminated by those who see your generosity as a tool for their convenience. Do not allow your empathy to become your enemy. Many who walk in compassion end up exhausted because they never learn the discipline of no. The word no can be an act of worship when it protects what God has entrusted to you. Every no to distraction is a yes to your destiny. There are people who will make you feel guilty for choosing peace over chaos. But remember, your peace is not negotiable. If your presence brings calm, but theirs brings confusion, you already have your answer. God does not call you to keep walking into storms you were once delivered from. Sometimes the test is not whether you can love, but whether you can let go. One of the greatest truths in life is that not everyone who cries deserves comfort. Some tears are sincere, but others are strategic. There are people who cry not because they are broken, but because they want control. Their sadness is a weapon. Their pain is their power over compassionate hearts. You must learn to listen beyond emotion. Ask God to give you spiritual ears to hear the intent behind the words, to sense the spirit behind the plea. God will show you when a cry for help is real and when it is manipulation. If He tells you to walk away, do not hesitate. Your obedience may be the very thing that forces that person to seek God instead of leaning on you. There will be moments when your heart says help, but your spirit says wait. Listen to your spirit. God will never guide you into something that drains your peace. Peace is His signature. Whenever your help feels forced, heavy, or confusing, that is a sign that God is not in it. Divine help always carries clarity, not chaos. You will know it because it flows naturally. It strengthens both you and the person you help. But when your helping turns into a cycle of constant saving, constant rescuing, constant fatigue, you are outside of divine order. There are also those who appear helpless but secretly carry pride that refuses correction. They want your assistance but not your advice. They want your resources but not your wisdom. They want your hand but not your direction. And when you try to speak truth into their lives, they turn cold or defensive. Understand this: helping someone who rejects truth is like pouring water into sand. It disappears, leaving no growth behind. God never blesses arrogance. And when you help someone walk in pride, you align yourself with their downfall. Step aside. Let them wrestle with their choices. Your silence will teach more than your words ever could. Sometimes God tests your heart by bringing you people who remind you of your old self, broken, lost, confused. You will feel compassion because you've been there. But discernment will remind you that not everyone who shares your pain shares your path. You cannot save everyone who struggles the way you once did. Some must walk through their own wilderness. You may feel their pain deeply, but that does not mean you are called to carry it. Even in compassion, there must be boundaries. For if you become consumed by another's chaos, you will lose your own clarity. There are also those who want your help, but not your peace. They want your energy, but not your alignment. They will drain you, distract you, and then disappear when you are empty. You will wonder why you feel spiritually tired after being with them. That is because they are not aligned with your divine purpose. Their spirit resists your peace. And the moment you stop feeding them, they turn against you. Do not take that personally. That is proof that your light exposed their darkness. When people react negatively to your boundaries, it is because they benefited from your lack of them. Helping others is noble, but when it becomes endless repair, you must ask, am I doing this for God? Or am I doing this to feel needy? Because sometimes the desire to help comes not from divine assignment, but from emotional attachment. The desire to fix can be a disguised form of pride, the belief that you can do what only God can. Release that burden. You were never called to be anyone's savior. You were called to be a vessel, nothing more, nothing less. A vessel must pour when God says pour and stay still when God says still. If you pour without permission, you empty yourself in places that will never value your oil. Many people fail to reach their next season because they are busy maintaining others who refuse to move. Every time you carry someone who has no intention of walking, you delay your own journey. You must choose obedience over attachment. Sometimes love means saying, I care for you, but I will not carry you. That statement does not make you heartless, it makes you wise. For even divine love operates in order. God helps those who move in faith, not those who live in excuses. There are seasons when God will call you to isolation, not as punishment, but as purification. He removes the voices that keep you dependent on human approval. He cuts off relationships that confuse your discernment. In their silence, you will learn to hear Him clearly. You will see how much of your helping was driven by fear. Fear of being rejected, fear of being misunderstood, fear of being seen as unkind. But when you walk with God, you realize that obedience is greater than approval. If your heart is right with God, you need not explain your decision to anyone. The people you help should bring peace to your soul, not heaviness to your spirit. If their presence constantly disturbs your focus, they are not your assignment. Real connections are mutual. They uplift, they strengthen, they inspire. But toxic ones are parasitic. They take and never give. They promise loyalty but deliver confusion. They talk of unity but sow division. Helping them is like watering weeds. They grow quickly, but they choke the garden of your purpose. Guard your garden. Guard your peace. Guard your spirit. God will never require you to destroy yourself to prove your kindness. True kindness honors balance. The same God who commands love also commands wisdom. You must learn to see beyond emotion and act from discernment. When God tells you to help, you will feel a divine flow. Peace will confirm it. But when He tells you to hold back, obedience will protect you. Every no spoken in alignment with God saves you from 100 battles later. There will be times when the people you refuse to help will accuse you of being selfish, arrogant, or cold. They will twist your silence into betrayal. But do not be moved. Let them speak. Let them misunderstand. You are not responsible for their perception. You are responsible for your obedience. When you stand firm, when you follow the quiet voice of God rather than the loud cries of manipulation, you step into spiritual authority. You will find yourself lighter, freer, and more peaceful than ever before. And soon you will see why God removed certain people. Because the moment you let them go, doors you never imagined will open. Energy will return. Ideas will flow. Your spirit will breathe again. You will realize that your delay was never due to lack of ability. It was due to misplaced loyalty. You were busy helping those who had no intention of working with you. But now God will send new people, those aligned with your vision, those who carry the same light, those who multiply your peace instead of consuming it. Helping others is divine when directed by God. It becomes distraction when driven by guilt. You are not called to be drained. You are called to overflow. And overflow only happens when you pour where God instructs. Choose your soil wisely. Not every hand that reaches deserves your help. Some reach to be lifted. Others reach to pull you down. Pray for discernment. Because when you learn whom to help and whom to release, you enter the realm of divine balance, the place where peace guides every decision and God directs every step. And remember, when God removes people from your path, do not chase them. Do not question it. Do not mourn what was meant to end. God sees what you do not. Some people must exit your life so your destiny can enter. Your peace is the confirmation. When the burden lifts, that was God's hand releasing you. When confusion fades, that was God's wisdom guiding you. And when clarity returns, that was God's voice whispering, now you are ready to walk with me. When God starts preparing you for the next level of your destiny, He will often begin by testing your heart through people. Some will come wrapped in need and others cloaked in admiration. Some will appear helpless and others will appear wise. But look closer, not every cry for help is a divine signal to act. Sometimes it is a trap of distraction sent to derail your progress. Every person who crosses your path is either a seed or a weed. One will multiply your peace, the other will choke your purpose. That is why God gives discernment, not so you may judge, but so you may guard what is sacred. Discernment is not suspicion. Suspicion looks through fear. Discernment looks through wisdom. Discernment does not say, this person is bad. It says, this connection is not right. There is a difference. Some people are not evil. They are simply not meant for your journey. God designed every soul for a particular season. And when that season ends, holding on becomes disobedience. The pain of release is temporary, but the cost of holding on is eternal delay. If you continue to pour into those who refuse to grow, you will dry up before you ever reach your divine assignment. There is a power in silence. When you stop rescuing everyone who calls, you make room for God to speak. There are moments when the most spiritual thing you can do is to say nothing, to stop explaining yourself, to stop fixing everyone's problems, and to let God be God. You were never meant to carry the emotional burdens of the world. Your strength has a divine purpose, and it must be reserved for what truly matters. Every time you exhaust yourself for the ungrateful, you are robbing your destiny of its strength. Some people only value you when they need something. When they are full, they forget your kindness. When they are empty, they return as if nothing happened. Do not be deceived. Gratitude reveals truth. When a person can take your time, your love, your help, and offer no appreciation, it is a sign that their spirit is not aligned with yours. God values gratitude because it reveals the condition of the heart. A thankful heart multiplies blessings. An ungrateful one repels them. You cannot help someone who despises the very hand that feeds them. God watches how you use your compassion. Compassion is holy, but it must be guided. If your compassion leads you to compromise your peace, it is no longer compassion, it is bondage. The moment you are helping becomes a source of anxiety, confusion, or fatigue, you must ask, is this still my assignment? God never calls you to what destroys your clarity. Peace is the confirmation of divine direction. If peace is absent, God's approval is not there. Do not confuse guilt with guidance. Guilt says, you must help or you are heartless. Guidance says, help only when it strengthens both souls. The voice of guilt will keep you trapped in cycles of exhaustion. The voice of God will lead you into balance. When you feel pressure to help, pause and pray. God will either give you peace to proceed or conviction to stay still. Never move under emotional manipulation. Move only under divine instruction. You see, not every act of helping is holy. Sometimes helping becomes a form of pride, a subtle belief that you can fix what only God can. The moment you take the place of divine intervention, you remove the opportunity for that person to seek God themselves. Some people will never look upward as long as they can look sideways. And if you keep being the one they run to, you become the replacement for the one they should depend on. Let God take His place. Let them experience the emptiness that drives them back to faith. When you help people who constantly reject truth, you are not serving them, you are strengthening their rebellion. When you continue to comfort those who misuse you, you are teaching them that love tolerates abuse. When you give endlessly to those who never give back, you are telling them that your time is not valuable. You must correct the message you are sending. Love without boundaries is not love, it is surrender. Real love protects itself because it knows that peace is sacred. Some will misunderstand your withdrawal. They will say, you have changed. become cold, or lost compassion. But what they call distance, God calls discipline. The discipline to protect your purpose, the discipline to walk away from confusion, the discipline to honor the boundaries God placed around your heart. You are not being cruel when you set limits. You are being wise. For wisdom does not give endlessly, it gives strategically. You must also understand that every divine calling requires separation. When God wants to elevate you, He will remove the voices that keep you small. He will strip away relationships that distract your focus. This separation will hurt because your heart will still care. But do not mistake pain for loss. It is preparation. God removes what cannot handle where He is taking you. If you keep trying to carry those He has released, you are fighting divine timing. Your path requires lightness. Let go of the weight. So if today you feel drained, overwhelmed, or burdened by those who take without giving, it is time to listen. God is calling you to a higher level of discernment. He is teaching you that compassion without boundaries becomes chaos. He is inviting you to rest, to realign, to trust that saying no is sometimes the most spiritual act you can perform. And when you finally learn this truth, when you master the art of helping with wisdom, not emotion, you will discover the peace that passes understanding. You will walk lighter, love purer, and give smarter. You will no longer fear saying no, because you will know that your obedience is your offering. You will see that you do not need to be everything for everyone. You only need to be faithful to what God asks of you. In that place of divine order, your life becomes a vessel of balance and power. You will help those who are ready, guide those who are humble, uplift those who are sincere. And for the rest, you will trust God to handle what your hands cannot. That is true wisdom. That is true strength. That is divine peace, the kind of peace that cannot be taken, only protected. And in that peace, you will finally see that helping everyone was never your purpose. Walking in obedience to God's direction was always your true calling.